Test. Start. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay.
Okay, you should be good. You can start whenever.
All right.
You got about a minute or two.
All right.
I've got 11:39.
Michael came in already.
Are y'all gonna let me know when to start? Y'all let me know when to start?
Yeah, you go ahead and start.
Okay.
What do you want to?
That logo, is that your logo?
Yes, sir.
Sort of
Can't
neat.
tell, right?
I like that. But your handlebar sort of went away.
Yeah.
Is it there?
Yeah.
Okay. I got a kid in my works for me has a handlebar. I've had it since he's 18 years old.
We're going to get started here. First of all, I want to thank everybody that's here. This topic is a very sensitive topic. A lot of people don't want to talk about it or be part of it, but it's, to me, it's in my faith and my understanding of what I went through throughout my life. It's a very highly respected need to help those that are incarcerated. The importance of serving in prison ministry here at Feast of Tabernacles at Tanglewood Resorts. This is a seminar that I'm going to be doing. So some of the aspects has, like the cover here, has Tanglewood on it, and another insert or two specifically for this feast. But this is also a seminar that I'm going to be doing as a keynote speaker, going to wardens and everything, and trying to promote this ministry. I do want to do a disclaimer, though, what Johnny just spoke about. I concur with Johnny. During feast time, it's not time to ask for donations, things like that. But at the end of this call to action, again, this is a seminar that I'm going to be doing outside of the church, but pray. I'm glad we're doing this early. Pray during the feast. If you want to partake in this after the feast, contact me and everything. You'll see the call to actions of what I mean. God gave us a great commission. He told us to go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations, baptize them in the name of the Father, Son, and of the Holy Spirit. In this particular scripture, there is 3 actions that we are to do. We are to go, we are to make disciples of all nations, and we are to baptize them into God's family. So go make disciples and baptize them. God has specifically called me into the prison ministry. And by the end of this seminar, you'll see why. My name is Jimmy Whiteside II. I am a disciple of Jesus Christ and a child of the living God. During this seminar, I'm going to tell you a story about a little kid that experienced some trials and tribulations in his life and what that child went through to get to where that child is now. And what I have learned specifically, and it's just it's ironic that this scripture, we sung about this just a while ago. Seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things shall be added to you. So I'm holding God's promise on that. You know, he knows my heart. I'm seeking his kingdom and his righteousness in the prison ministry. And I know what he's put in place upon my heart. He's going to gather others to help us in this ministry. For you, brethren, have not been called to liberty. Only do not use it as an opportunity of the flesh, but through love serve one another. Too many times we've seen in our different congregations and stuff, at times it gets stagnant. We don't see any growth in everything, you know. So not only are we supposed to go and make disciples, we're not use our liberty that God's given us for ourselves, just to get into a daily routine. Jesus stated in Matthew 25:36, I was in prison, and you came unto me. Verily I say to you, unto you, in the least of my brethren, you have done it unto me. So when we go into nursing homes, prisons, whatever the case may be, whatever God's called us to fulfill in our sole purpose of this side of eternity, we're doing it into Jesus, not just into ourselves. What if you were known for the worst thing you've ever done? I want y'all to envision a screen just like this that hovers over your head. And the worst thing that you've ever done in your life, or the worst things that you've done in your life, is on a constant loop. Everybody sees. When you first meet them, walk into a room, when you go to work, when you're at church, the worst thing that you've ever done is on a constant loop. And I ask y'all to think about that as I tell y'all the story about this child that grew up in an abusive home set. His father was an alcoholic, beat on his mom, just made things very horrible. When he wasn't around with the mother, he would leave them and destitute. The mother would have to fend for herself and the children. This child grew up angry. This child started failing in school, not getting along with others. This child became a street fighter just to have recognition and relieve his anger towards what he was growing up with. This child ended up making some bad choices in his early 20s, taking a 20-year prison sentence. This child, while he was incarcerated, started asking God what this life is for. This child was confused, not understanding what this life was for. And it was during this child's incarceration in his early 20s that he come across not only reading the Bible while he was incarcerated, but he come across some Good News magazines that particularly, was part of the United Church of God. And that's where he started finding the truth about God's festivals and God's Sabbath and the contradictions that he saw growing up in the church, when he was in the Southern Free Will Baptist Church, the contradictions of what the Bible said to what people said. So it was during this child's incarceration that he come to know God's truth. And also during this child's incarceration, he began to study business and finance and learning how to operate a business and stuff, because he had hard times getting jobs, because he was not that he had a mindset that he didn't want to abide by authority. It's just that he excelled so fastly at jobs, and when he wouldn't get promoted as quickly, he would leave and go to another job to expand his mind. So during this child's incarceration, he started studying business, finance, and stuff along with the Bible, and God started giving him a lot of wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. And miraculously, the 20-year sentence that God that the people wanted to give this child, God miraculously reduced it to 5 years. And then this child, when he got out of prison, after 5 years, become an entrepreneur. And this child's been out of prison for 12 years now. And in the 12 years that he's been out, he has started 12 different companies with his wife and has authored 2 books and about the importance of prison ministry and who we are and what God created us to be, and helping people understand why we are here this side of eternity. And this child has the opportunity to speak in front of y'all today. So again, I ask you, what if you was known for the worst thing you ever done? Going to prison, whatever the loop is. Think about that as we're speaking on this. Here's a great quote of John Wolfgang. It says, look at a person in the way they are, and they only become worse. But if you look at a person the way they can be or could be, they become what they should be. So if you go back to, what if you were known for the worst thing you've ever done, to this, which side of the track would you want to be on? You don't want people remembering you for the worst thing you've ever done. You want them to look at you on what you can become. And that's the importance of prison ministry. So many people in prison don't think that they have an opportunity because of the choices they make. They don't think that their talents that they have can be used in a way to service others. And a lot of them do have selfish acts because the way they've been raised, didn't have the homestead or a father figure, or the mom. You know, some people don't have parents or raised by their grandparents, end up in prison. And this is where our heart should be softened to understand that some people in prison don't really have hearts of stone. And they want, all they need is someone to let them know that they care. And once you know, Johnny Snyder has been to the prisons with me a few times. And at the beginning of some of the sessions that we do 9-month programs with some of these men, when you first meet them, they're hard, standoffish and everything. But by the end of the 9 months, they are so soft-hearted, hugging, never thought that they would be able to hug another man. And it's just remarkable. And if you just look at a person of what they become, or what they can become. And this is where, when I moved to Dallas after we sold a trucking company in 2017 from South Carolina, I met the CEO of this prison entrepreneurship program. His name is Brian Kelly. And the remarkable thing about Brian Kelly is 27 years ago, he robbed his drug dealer and killed him. He didn't mean to kill him during the situation. He was the one to rob him. Things got out of hand, he killed him. Well, Brian Kelly heard about the PEP program while he was incarcerated, and he wanted to join it. But you can only join it when you're like less than 3 years away from being released. And he got denied parole 8 times, I think, for 22 years. Well, 20 years. And at his 20-year parole hearing, they offered him parole, said you can go home next week. And he denied his own parole because he wanted to go through this program. And the PEP program is an entrepreneurship program that helps men understand themselves. They help them understand how to budget, from writing a basic check to building business plans. And in this 9-month program, as they go through this, it teaches them to be a better man. And Brian Kelly, which become a good friend of mine, he denied his parole, wanted to go through this program, and went through the program. And he's been out 4.5 years now. And now he is the CEO of Prison Entrepreneurship Program that helped him reestablish himself back in the life. And that's a remarkable thing because people, when they step out of prison, they don't know they get a $50 check and a bus ticket home. And this guy, in a very short period of time, has become CEO of the top reigning Texas recidivism lower nonprofits in his whole state of Texas. If you notice up here, the United States is the largest incarceration in the world. Although we're only 5% of the world's population, we have 25% of the world's inmates. And that's a crazy number to understand. And 70% of these people that get released, when they're released, they don't have jobs. They can't get jobs because they're ex-offenders. If you also look down here, 50% of them released of parole become homeless, and they don't have nowhere to go upon their release. And also, 70% of all that's released from prison, they'll commit new crimes within their first year. And we need to step in to slow that down. And what we've done at PEP, for the past 7 years, within 90 days of release, we got 100% employment of the men that's gotten out. And over 68%, $12.20 over the minimum wage, 68%. This right here says 350 businesses launched by PEP graduates. Well, I spoke to the CEO about 3 weeks ago, and that number is now 412. Men and women that has gotten out, started businesses, created jobs for other inmates when they get released. And just in case you don't know exactly what recidivism is, it's based on those released from prison that's once incarcerated, as mostly common by the U.S. Department of Justice Bureau of Statistics, stating that 2/3% of prisoners released were arrested with a new crime within 3 years, and it's 77%, over 3/4, were arrested within 5 years. What PEP has done in the state of Texas, we have a recidivism rate of only 7.5%. We've lowered that dramatically by going into these prisons and mentoring these men and mentoring when they're released. And we just launched the Empowered Women of Purpose. After 15 years of PEP and the knowledge and the data that they have formed, you'll see right down here, I was part of this pilot program in 2017 and 2018. We went into the women's to try to do this with the women, and it was successful. And you'll see the women's numbers are a little bit different. 40% are released from prison or rearrested in the first year, 67 within 3 years, and 75 within 5 years. Because they don't have nowhere to go, they don't have jobs. 90% of women have depended on a man before they was incarcerated. Now they got to get out, try to fend for themselves. And being raised by a single mom, I know how hard that is. And it was after this pilot session down in Lockhart, Texas, at the Lockhart Women's Facility. It's about a 5-hour drive back to Dallas. So me and the CEO, Ryan Kelly of PEP, had a 5-hour meeting on the way back. And I told him something that, a vision that God has laid upon my heart to help, especially with the women of these programs. So Stephanie and I, my wife, are founding Distinguished Group Ministries. It's a collaborative group of subsidiaries with the vision of preparing those in bondage for eternal freedom. And again, it's founded by me, and the reason I'm using my logo so much, my face so much, is just for branding purposes. It's not about me or anything like that. Speaking to the fellow over here, sometimes you got to brand yourself to stand out. You got to stand out to make people notice. And that's all. This is not about me. It's just for branding purposes, which I state right here. But distinguished, a lot of people think that distinguished means things that you don't normally understand what they mean. But if you look it up in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it's to notice or recognize a difference between people or things, to make someone or something different in some way, or to see or hear someone clearly. And we at Distinguished Group Ministries, etc., recognize that those that have been incarcerated are people like us. We're all created in God's image. And we will make those who serve behind walls, beyond prison walls, feel special in some way. And we see and hear the brokenness clearly. That's why God placed this vision in my heart to take my entrepreneur skills that He has blessed me with to a higher level to serve those in prison or those who have been affected by the penal system. And as I stated before, back in early May 2018, the White House hosted a prison summit, and it's where they started a 25-5 vote, the First Step Act that they put in to help people that's been incarcerated. The measure would provide a better reentry programs for federal prisons, which allow ex-offenders to lead successful, fulfilling lives after their time in prison. This would include programs concerning jobs, training, drug treatment, and mental health. Trump noted that the bill would restore the rule of law, keep dangerous criminals off the street, and help inmates get a second chance at life. And also, Rick Perry, whom was the 47th governor, was at this summit also, he's now the incumbent 14th United States Secretary of Energy. He stated in this summit, this may be the issue of our generation. And as we see what's going on in the world today, our generation, my generation and the ones coming behind me are in trouble due to the recidivism of the revolving door of one getting into the system of going to prison. What we're going to talk about here today, I'm not talking about all the entities today, but we're going to talk about claims and the Stringers Group property group that Stephanie and I have formed. Claims is a program that would donate 100% of the proceeds to Distinguished Group Ministries. Distinguished Group Ministries would then disperse all donations where needed within the organization. When I myself was incarcerated in 2006, this is when I come up with this program, naming it after my first daughter, Kayla Lynn. And claims as a request for something considered one's due. And that's a request from the incarcerated, asking society to forgive them their mistakes, bad choices they have had previously made, and that they desire to help others beyond the prison walls by having our nonprofit foundation market their artistic God-given greatness, having the proceeds go towards the greater good of those in need of assistance in the free world. And what it is a marketing service. Kayla Lynn's Art of the Incarcerated Marketing Service. And what it do is go in and gather the talents, and it kind of lines up with what we're talking about here at the North Dallas Fellowship, this feast, magnifying God and multiplying talents. Being incarcerated myself and seeing the talents, there's so much talent behind prison walls due to art, poetry, writing autobiographies, telling their story. There's just so much art and things that they can make things out of a potato chip bag that you would not know that it was a potato chip bag that it was made out of. And we want to market those and help build them a portfolio and a database, and we want to get them to help give them something to do while they're incarcerated instead of fighting each other over guards. Get them focused on when they get out, using their talents while they're incarcerated. Sending them quarterly reports, yearly reports, their donations of their talent, what it's doing. Inspire them to not want to become another statistic of recidivism. When they get out, they can get out understanding that they have a platform and an army of people that's going to help them. And Distinguished Property Group is a for-profit company with a cause that purchases properties to create training facilities. The only reason this is a for-profit is because the law will not let you do a nonprofit under the guidelines for real estate. So it's got to be a for-profit with a cause. And we're going to create training facilities, transitional housings for PEP and empowered women of purpose, graduates, and creates affordable housing for those that have felonies. Even if they don't go through the PEP or empowered women of purpose programs, if they're homeless, once we get started good, if they're homeless, we will still help them because 95% of the people that are homeless are affected by the penal system. Whether their husband went to prison, they couldn't afford to keep their house, or their children get taken to foster homes or other families. But our goal is we've started a step-up housing program that would help them within 3 to 5 years through this program, help them become financially stable enough to attain their own mortgage or purchase a home themselves. And this is a great detail. This is just a slide from another one of my presentations. As you'll see, the first 90 days will be rent-free, and then they start paying 25% first quarter, second, third quarter. Year 1 to 3 to 5, they'll pay 100%. We step them up to learn the responsibilities of, doing home budgets and things like that. And as you see, I've written 2 books about this. The first book here, with the white cover, Distinguished Book of Thought, is directed thoughts about who God is, why He created us, in addition to leadership, mentorship, guidance. And the reason I have this as a white cover is basic. It's not, I didn't want to do anything to drive away from the facts. I made it just like a textbook. It's not, a storybook or a novel. It's a textbook style. There's 7 exposés that expose authenticity and what a lot of people believe about what God's Word said or why we're here. And it's white, more brighter than the other one. The second book is more dark because I talk about slavery, the U.S. government, systematic education, jobs, entrepreneurship, and creating true wealth. And in that, a lot of people don't understand, especially what's going on this election year. They don't understand what slavery is. Slavery has been both mentally and physically throughout man's history. And I start this about slavery all the way back in biblical times up to now, explaining that all different races and religions and peoples have been in slavery. No matter what culture or color or skin is, we've all been in slavery, our ancestors have. But the slavery that we have today is, by the mainstream media and other people's propaganda, is slave-driven mindset. And a lot of people don't realize that. People are enslaved in their minds. And that's one of the major things I walk through in that. In the U.S. government, what we are, and the systematic education, we got to watch what our children are being taught. And we understand that what's going on this year especially. But this has been going on for years. I remember when I was back in school, some ideology things that they was trying to teach us back then. But it's gotten worse over the years. And jobs and entrepreneurship, creating true wealth. I want to touch on that for a moment because a lot of people think that becoming a millionaire, billionaire, that's when you become wealthy, and it's not. That's not what we're called to do. And I teach people that creating true wealth is creating passive income that overexceeds or equals your passive bills, which your passive bills are power, mortgage, rent. I mean, if it takes you $3,000 a month to live, you got to find something passively, not an earned income, not what you go to do day to day, week to week, paycheck to paycheck. You got to find some kind of way to earn money while you're sleeping. Set up something, or 1 or 2 other companies, side gigs, or something that creates passive income. Passive income is something that you do now that you get paid for later, like writing a book, creating songs, writing songs, things to get royalties, invent something. That's what passive income is. And once you surpass or equal your passive bills, you're wealthy. It don't matter if you're making $10 an hour or $10,000 an hour. True wealth is not about the money that you have in a bank account or the toys that you have. It's about living a comfortable life that God's given you and not have to worry about if you're going to eat the next day or the next week. So it's my earnest prayer that these books be in every juvenile jail library, every jail library, every prison library across America and in the entire world. In Jesus' name, that is a prayer that I have in the context of my book. I also wanted to just, if y'all can read through this, when I go to prisons, people's like, man, God can't use me. How how can he use me? I've done the worst thing. I've murdered, I've sold drugs, I've let my family down, you know, but here's people in the Bible that God uses, and that's who God uses. He uses broken people like me, what I used to be. He uses broken people that's in prison, or on the streets that are homeless, or just the natural person, everyday Joe. But if you just read this, I'll read this off. Adam was a snitch, Jacob was a thief, Noah was a drunk, Jonah was a defiant, Elijah was suicidal, Mark was a quitter, Joseph was abused, Hannah was barren, Miriam was a racist, Gideon was a coward, Simon was a sorcerer, Lot committed incest, Zacchaeus was corrupt, Moses was a murderer, Thomas was a doubter, David was an adulterer, Adam pimped his wife. They use that word in prison, that's why I used that. Rahab was a prostitute, Nathaniel was a skeptic, Ananias was a fugitive, Ruth was a legal alien, Solomon worshipped idols, Saul persecuted Christian, Matthew was a collaborator, Mary Magdalene was possessed, the Samaritan woman was an outcast, and all of Jesus' disciples run away from him. And Peter denied having ever known him because Jesus was a convicted felon at the time that he was crucified. And God can use anybody. We can't just write people off to go to prison and say, oh, their life's worthless. I mean, I'm proof of that. You know, I was looking at 20 years sentence, but here I am in front of y'all today because God is going to use me for a greater purpose. So I do have a vision. I put this in the epilogue of the second book here, and I'll read it off to you. I have a vision that one day those whom have been incarcerated will come out of their bondage, whether it be mentally, physically, with an entrepreneurial mindset that they too can make a better world a better place to live in. I have a vision that by mentoring them to understand that just because they made a few mistakes in their lives, that they can change directions in their lives now, to turn a page of the book that their life has been written thus far, and create a new chapter and ending for the future of their life, for the lives of whom they will touch. I have a vision that our organization will guide our protege into understanding that we have God-given greatness within us, and that there is a business plan or a talent that they have that they themselves can make the world a better place to live in because they came this way. I have a vision that when they tap into their God-given greatness, that they do not allow themselves or any other person or group to oppress them with propaganda or to deter them away from achieving their sole purpose for their lives this side of eternity. They will turn this world upside down in a now and new positive manner, and not a negative manner as they've done in the times past. I have a vision that those men and women that have been affected by the penal system, whether it's because of their own mistakes or their mistakes of someone close to them, will not become a statistics of recidivism. I have a vision that those whose hearts they touch will come out of their bondage and become a leader of their communities themselves, starting right now. To mentor and lead others in love that does not come this way, to guide them to stay the straight and narrow path of righteousness by creating strong family households with both the father and the mother together. I have a vision that one day the scales of entrepreneurship will tip in the favor of those that have been to prison, and that there will be more businesses and jobs created from the God-given greatness that's behind the prison walls than from those in the free world. And I pray that they will make a mark in history instead of leaving a scar as they have in times past. And I can't, every time I get too emotional when I say this last part, but I do have a vision. My only question now is who's locking arms with my vision so we can make this a reality? And the team that Stephanie and I has created is called Let's Get It. We're Team Get It. And we're asking people to the call to action. This is a call to action. This is a startup. Although Stephanie and I started 12 different companies, LLCs, starting a 501c3 is a different beast we've never tackled. And the law states to do that, you can start an LLC with one person. But to start a 501c3, you need a board of directors. And in the state of Texas, you need at least 3. We need a board of advisors. We need prayer warriors, of course. We need a chief executive officer, finance. I can't be this because I'm going to sit at the board. I'm going to be the chairman of the board, so I can't hold office here either. So we're looking for an executive officer, financial officer, HR executive, staff members, IT specialists for online marketing, volunteers for fundraising, editing, and etc. The purchase our book, again, disclaimer that I did at the beginning of this, not at the feast. Pray about it during the feast. If y'all want to be part of this or help out in some way, and tell others about it. This call to action is, I'm glad we've done it at the first of the feast, so it gives y'all time to pray about it. But purchase the book to create the first fruit funds and the donations, and we need you to just help us get this out. If you can't be any one of these, you can at least be you as a prayer warrior for us, because God's going to help us with this. But this is a call to action to form this after the feast. And we hope by the spring of next year to have our 501c3 status, get the board of directors and advisors together first. So if anybody wants to be part of this organization, the great technology of Zoom we have today, or Skype, you don't have to live here in Texas to be the board member or advisor. We can do Skype and Zoom meetings if you just want to be on that board. Because to file for the 501c3 status with the government, again, we have to have at least 3 board members. We're going to shoot for 7, because the 7 is the number of completeness. So we do want 7. I as the chairman, and I need 6 other people to join the board. Board of advisors could be 1 from 100. It don't matter. And anybody that y'all know that could take the chief executive office, financial, that knows HR. Again, they don't necessarily have to be in this state. They could be anywhere to help us with all this. Here's my contact information. We do have an office here in Dallas, and my personal website for my business, the Life Coaching Session and Speaking Engagements. Y'all want to just take a screenshot of that. Y'all contact me. What I will do, I'll talk to Johnny again. I'm going to put these at the information table. Pray that nobody that's outside of our organization here takes them, but they'll be out at the information table if you just want to thumb through them. Take a look at what's inside the books, and I look forward to working with y'all soon. So that's the end of the seminar. Is there any Q&A that you guys have? I think we're a little bit early.
How'd you get started in entrepreneurship after you got out of prison?
Well, the first thing we did, because before I got incarcerated, I had bought a truck. I started driving a truck back in 2020 when I was 23 years old. And 2000, when I was 23 years old. And I bought a truck before I went to prison, but I didn't run the business correctly. I didn't really know what I was doing. I kind of got into some trouble with the IRS. But it was while I had that business, I got incarcerated. So I kind of lost it going to prison. But coming out of prison, what we got involved with some network marketing to acquire some money. But we had, Stephanie, my wife, had got a bonus 1 year at her job. She was with Walmart. She got a good bonus 1 year, and so we bought our first truck. And then from there, we created an LLC in 2011, had that business, we grew, and grew enough to in 2017, we liquidated it, sold it off, and moved out here to start the stripping industry. When she got transferred to Frisco, they opened up a new Frisco. And her job was to go around to new Walmarts and stuff and hire staff people and help the store get started. They built a new one in 2017, so we transferred out here. That's when I met the CEO of PPP and got into prison industry.
how you met the CEO of PP.
Huh?
Tell them how you met the CEO of PP.
Oh, through the coffee?
Yeah.
Yeah, so how we met Brian Kelly is when we first come here, we started networking through meetup groups. I don't know if you know meetups.com. We just started networking to meet new people here and stuff. And one of the guys that we met, this guy named Brad Mathis, he owned 24 Adams Coffee, and Stephanie had bought some coffee at one of the meetings. And one night after dinner, she's making coffee, and she's like, because prison ministry, I've been talking to her about prison ministry since we met and everything, since I got out. I just didn't know how to get started. So that's really basically how we got started. How I met Brian Kelly is on the back of the coffee package, it said some of the sales proceeds go towards PEP, prison entrepreneurship. So I contacted him. He linked me up with Brian Kelly. We had a meeting, and from there, actually, February of 2018, which is my birthday, I'm born on February 2nd, was the first time I went back into the prisons to start the ministry. Any other questions? Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Why do you feel like you have to have a 501c?
Well, to be able to get donations. Because the main reason for the donations to 501c3 and because this is going to be a parent foundation, and they're going to found all these other ones, a property group, a staffing, a life academy, insurance group, pen pals, investment groups. This has to be the foundation. Now, all these other ones don't have to be because they're subsidiaries, but the distinguished group ministries, because it's a group of subsidiaries, it has to be the umbrella, not a shell, an umbrella, not a shell corporation, but an umbrella corporation. And it's by the research that I've done and talking to lawyers, it has to be a 501c3 to get donations to keep up with money coming in, money going out. Yes, sir.
Are you familiar with halfway houses that are starting up in Texarkana? There's 2 or 3 groups up there trying to start halfway houses. And are you familiar with those or working with them?
Not those. The vision plan, Stephanie actually come up with the one that I told Brian Kelly about, and the other CEO of the women, Empowered Women's. Stephanie been in real estate 34 years, and with the e-commerce boom,
You mean retail 34.
Retail 34. But with the e-commerce boom, a lot of strip malls are being just abandoned. And we've talked to a couple of real estate developers. We'd have to talk with city councils to get them rezoned, but taking them and making them like 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, little small apartments instead of retail. Again, it's going to take some labor work to get them rezoned and everything, but we have started discussions on that. We just have to get up and going and getting the board of directors and submitting the paperwork and everything. And that's where we're at now. We're in the startup phase.
But tell them about PEP does have halfway houses.
Yeah, they do have duplexes and halfway houses, but here's the thing, these duplexes and halfway houses that PEP have, about 8 or 10 men can go into them and bunk up and get a job, get back on their feet. What Stephanie and I started Distinguished Group Ministries is specifically for the women. Because the women get out, again, 90% of the women have been dependent on a man before they went in, and they've had children. And they need to get out and get their children back in foster homes or family members. And you can't have a woman with 3 or 4 kids and another woman with 3 or 4 kids. It's just too many personalities. So we're focused on the real estate side, helping the women get out, whether it be a duplex or a quadplex or a single 2-3 bedroom house, fix it up. Even that may be the house that we help them purchase through the Step Up program. So we're mainly focused on helping the women get out because I was raised in a single. My mom by herself, we went through a lot of rough times. We're more focused on helping the women because the men, 15 years, they've already got their system down pat. They just started with the women, and that's what we're focused on, mainly helping the women and getting their children back away from foster homes. Any more questions? Yes, ma'am.
So, on the information table, those books will be available?
Yeah, I'm gonna leave them out there for the rest of the feast. I'm gonna probably pick them up after dinner every night, not leave them out there all night, but bring them back at breakfast in the morning, so everybody can just come through.
Are they free for the taking? I'm asking because I'll be working on the information table.
Yeah, I just need them to stay there, because this is the only copies I brought.
Okay.
I need them to stay if somebody just wants to sit in a chair right there in front,
Sure.
thumb through it, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, matter of fact, I'll hand these to you, make a sign, please leave here.
Okay.
But I'll put them out there at breakfast every morning, and I'll pick them up after dinner every night.
And then if we want to purchase them for ourselves, we just
You can go,
contact you.
a website, data
Yes.
center. You
Okay.
can go to my website and purchase them. Again, I'm not asking nobody to do this during a feast. This is after the feast. If you feel inclined to do so while you're here, before you don't forget when you get back home. But I'm not asking for donations or purchases of my books during the feast. I agree totally with Johnny. Now is not the time. This is just a call to action. Pray about it while you're here. If you can't join, be a prayer warrior. If you know other people that's good at HR, could be a CEO, CFO, whatever. That's what we're looking for. I'm just planting the seed now so it'll grow. Yes, ma'am.
I've written to different prisoners over the years, and I found that what you say about their talent is so true. Some of them can write poetry like a professional, even if they can't spell it. And,
I write poetry too. I got a few in here.
I do too, usually. But what I'm asking you is, I try to send things because we get it in the mail, and a lot of times things are sent back to me.
It's very hard.
Because it has to be something they order themselves. How could I get one of your books into one of these places?
That's what we're working on. I'm working with both the CEO, because I already got an indoor with the 3 prisons I already go to. And that's where we're going to start out, planting the seeds.
So I
And the wardens at those tell the other wardens. So I kind of got my foot in the door already the past few years doing that. But yes, what she was talking about is it's hard to just send inmate stuff. It has to be requested. You just can't send stuff. And it has to go through a channel, mostly through the chaplain and the warden. And the 3 prisons I'm at now, I already got that foothold. And those wardens know other wardens and chaplains. So it's just planting the seed and getting it out there. And this is the first great opportunity I've had to announce this startup. He's got one question I come here. Yeah.
Do you have any information on how to get people who are sexual offenders back in society and the laws that pertain to those? I'm in a prison that has nothing but sexual offenders.
Okay.
And the guys are trying to figure out how, when they're paroled, how to get back out. And it's hard to find places where they can live.
Well, that's a different beast, especially when you're, they just gave me the end. I'm here all week if y'all want more questions. So, the thing about sexual offenders, and it's very hard because the society does deem them to be predators, and you got to watch out. If you do a housing system, it can't be near certain quarter miles up from schools, churches, when it's very hard to get them out. Even though they may have asked for forgiveness and everything like that, that's one of the hardest charges. You can kill somebody, but when you get into sexual situations, the society does not want them around at all. And that's one, even though God's forgiven them, that's one of the problems we're having too when we're building these, we'll start building these transitional units. And you have one more question, and they're telling us we gotta go.
I was just wondering, is there a way I could purchase one of your books and send it directly to a warden?
Yes, you could actually, when you go online, go through Amazon. I self-published. I had numerous publishers turn me down, even Christian publishers, mainly because why God created us is our faith belief. And Christian publishers wouldn't publish me, so I had to publish myself on Amazon. And through Amazon, you can say it's a gift on Amazon. And if you want to send it straight to a certain warden, you can that way. Yes.
What about also if you want to send it to the chaplain?
Chaplain too. You can put on there that it's a gift on Amazon. Yeah, they're telling us we gotta go.